Hello, and welcome to the Kosh, the People's Podcast. I'm your host, Timber Smith, and the Kosh is a podcast that spotlights people who've had an association with the Kosh or the surrounding Fox Cities area. Kosh listeners, how are you doing? It is another fantastic week in morning. It is gorgeous. If I was going to call it out, I do believe we are sitting on what I would call maybe the second or third summer of fall before the chaos begins. So I think we've got a few more really nice days, hopefully a full week or two in here before we have some ensuing chaos. But in the meantime, I'm going to enjoy these gorgeous, gorgeous days. Okay. Gosh, listen, I'm really excited about this week's conversation because I got an email from this individual, and they're not in our region, but they're from our region. And so I was like, okay, that's what's up. It's nice to know that these conversations are reaching people all across wherever, internationally, nationally, the whole nine. And so that's just cool. It's cool and nice. It's cool to know that there's people out there, people who grew up in our region, who still want to make connections with our region, who want to still get to know these neighbors that live here up here, and also let you get an update on what they up to and all the things they've been doing. So I think that's pretty fire myself. So, don't let me stall this out any longer. You know what I'm going to say. If you're a Kosh listener, you already know what's coming. You know what's coming. I don't know how I continue to get these amazing, amazing guests. And this week is no different. So, this week's guest is Josh Berndt. Josh, did I get that right?
Yeah, you got it right. Yeah, it's 1 in a million. It's a crapshoot. So yeah, you got it spot on.
You got a few extra letters going on in here, man.
Yeah, there's some ones that don't look like they should be where they're supposed to be, but they are for some reason. Yeah,
I agree with that.
Yeah.
So, Josh, how's your weekend going? What's going on with you?
Not a whole lot. It's a good weekend. Weekends tend not to be long enough here and probably everywhere. It's before you know it, it's a Monday again, and you're back to work doing whatever you're doing, and they're not long enough most times. So you got to do what you can with the time you got.
That's facts. I wish they would go ahead and incorporate this. I'd rather do the 10-hour workday and give me 3 days. Let me grind like that.
Yeah, no, I would be all down for that. Yeah, you'll swing shift really where I work, 3 10s or 4 12s type of thing or something crazy like that, and get an extra day or two in there the weekend. Definitely.
I've done both. I understand. And then sometimes you, for one of your professions, you work 24/7. So
yeah, for a long, long time, and there was no clock. It didn't know when I was going to get in and when I was going to go home. It was whenever.
When the mission's done.
That's right. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah.
All right. Well, Josh, let's not keep these people in suspense. So, can you please tell a little bit about yourself and your connection to the Kosh and the surrounding Fox Cities region?
Yeah, so my connection to the Kosh in the Fox Cities area, I was born and raised there. Went to high school at Oshkosh West High School. Back then it was the Indians, not the Wildcats. Yeah, I was there all the way until about 18, 19 years old, living in Oshkosh, right over by Quarry Park, over there where that used to be, and has been changed drastically over the years. Went to, actually I lived on the north side for a little while growing up in the younger years of my life. I went to Merrill Elementary School for a little bit and then moved over to the other side of town and attended Jacob Shapiro Middle School and then Jacob Shapiro Elementary School, Tipler Middle School, and then eventually at Oshkosh West, and left right after graduation of high school in 1998. I left the city of Oshkosh and lived down in Madison for a year. Did some things around there before I eventually really left the state a year or two later after that.
Okay. And what did we leave the state to go do?
So left the state it's just a crazy story, really. So long story short, baseball did not work out for me. That was my tried and true of what I really wanted to do with my life. moving forward after high school. Was drafted by the Los Angeles Dodgers out of high school.
Oh, for real? Wow.
Yeah. Drafted my senior year of high school, drafted by the Los Angeles Dodgers as a pitcher outfielder in their organization. And it was weird. Yeah, the day before I graduated high school, my mom actually got the call saying, Josh has been drafted by the Los Angeles Dodgers. And really, that didn't pan out. I was what they call a draft and follow. Draft and follow is the rights in the organization. They have the organization has the rights to you for a year. You go play somewhere at a college somewhere, and then if you've improved enough where they want to sign you, they'll move forward with that. Or if not, they'll put you back into the amateur draft pool, and other teams will have the availability to draft you. That's where I went down to Madison, played junior college baseball at MATC, Madison Area Technical College. They were a national powerhouse at that time in the junior college aura. Went down there. That did not work out. There was a whole lot of bumpy roads in that year. So ultimately came home, tried to work some odd and end jobs. That was not, I wasn't cut out for it at that time. I was a 19-year-old kid. I had zero discipline, any of that. So I literally one day up and went to the old Army recruiting office in Oshkosh.
Ooh.
Yeah. I knew I had to get out of Oshkosh for a little bit. I had to change what my future was going to look like. And I knew I needed some discipline, some changing in my life, or the road probably wasn't going to end well for me at that time. So I joined the Army. Parents to that time when I went and told them, I said, I'm joining the Army. I'm leaving in 2 weeks. And they laughed at me. They're like, yeah, right. There's no way you're going to cut it in the Army. We'll see you in a little bit. And sure enough, 2 years later, I was on a plane headed down to Fort Benning, Georgia for basic training, infantry basic training, 16 weeks of infantry basic training.
Oh, man. You went in 11 Bravo?
I went in 11 Bravo. I was an infantryman. Just the old ground pounder. Yeah. Bruh. I went in there to the Army office, Army recruiting office, and I told them, hey, I'm an athletic, physical, pretty well in shape guy. I want the toughest thing to do that the military has to offer. And they said, no problem, buddy. We can join the infantry.
I was going to say that recruiter was licking his chops.
Yeah, absolutely. The quota was eat the meat when I walked in, for sure, at that time. Yeah. Yeah. So that was right around, and that was 2000, May of 2000 is when or 2000. Oh, geez. Yeah. May of 2000 May of 2000, joined the Army.
All right. Well, I know we said it prior to starting the recording, but thank you for your service. We appreciate that.
I appreciate it. Thank you, sir, very much. I appreciate it.
So, went in and we've served, right? Because now we have retired from the military from this, is from what I understand.
Yeah. So in May of 2020, I chose to retire right at 20 years. That's right around the time, you can retire non-medically from the military. I did my 20 years. It was, you think 20 years is such a long time, and days, yes, were long, months long, years long, but boy, in the scope of things, it flew by for me and my family. I mean, it was, before you knew it, I'm 40 years old and I'm retiring from the military, trying to find out what I'm going to do with my next life, really, at 40. So, yeah.
How was your transition, it is, because you're still going through it. How was your transition from military to civilian life? How's it going?
It's going well. There's been some bumpy roads. I'm a very stern individual, and the military has been embedded in me with my leadership styles, the way I do things of that nature. And I was warned coming out after retirement, it's going to be a change for you. And for me, it took a little bit, because the civilian side is not the military side. People on the civilian side, I've learned real quick, do and say what they want. And maybe there's not some repercussions, maybe there are some repercussions, but the military, you say or do what you are told to say or do. And that was difficult for me. I was very fortunate in my last probably 4 or 5 months before retirement. The military sort of allowed me to ease into the civilian world and start looking and working in the civilian world, basically. And So I dabbled in some things. I knew ultimately I wanted to work with kids in some way, shape, or form. And I knew where I was at here in South Carolina, the way to do that was through coaching, right? But through coaching, you had to be sort of associated with, the school district, some way, shape, or form. So I went in and I was substitute teaching, just seeing if that was the route I truly wanted to go. And boy, there was some ups and downs in student teaching. You know how that is when you got a sub in your classroom and they're like, oh yeah, let's use and abuse this sub teacher. It's a free day off in class. And I think they quickly realized, wait a minute, this is former drill sergeant Berndt, Army 20-year sergeant Berndt. We're not going to be able to do what we used to do or thought we could do, So
The drill
yeah,
sergeant,
it was
drill
some,
sergeant came out, huh?
Bruh.
Oh my God, that's so good.
oh, numerous times, yeah. But it was quick and fast. They learned, and they knew me because my son was in the school at the time. So they sort of knew my background, where I came from, and how I was, because I was already sort of coaching middle school football at that time, at the middle school where I was subbing. So, but the transition was difficult for me. It was a lot of, I'm not used to. I wake up in the morning and I don't feel good. I can't just call my leadership and be like, I don't feel good, I can't come in today. There's just not those days in the military, right? You're there. We used to say the whole, we're finishing the mission, life, limb, or eyesight type thing, right? And civilian world, not so much, right? I mean, I got it, but you're there 24/7, whatever you got to do to get the mission done and accomplished. So that's helped in a way for me, though.
Yeah, that's
Definitely.
pretty cool. I don't think it's hard to understand. I think if you haven't served that transition, to come back to all what is basically no structure.
Zero. From
And
what I'm
so,
used to.
right, and then when everything was structured, what you wore, like you said, what you said, what you ate, where you had to be from 500 to, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
on some different.
Yeah, the structure was a big thing for me, right? Because I don't like to not know what the future looks like, right? And I have to have a regimented program structure type going forward. And day to day, like in the civilian side, I didn't know what that was going to look like sometimes. And honestly, I didn't know what that was going to look like in the military. I didn't know, days of the military, what day I was, what time I was going to have to be there. And I dang sure didn't know what time I was going to leave, And I do have that at least on the civilian side for the most part, as a teacher teaching at the middle school level now, I know I'm going in at 7, getting home 3:30, 4 o'clock. I know that type of mindset. So
Okay.
that has helped a little.
So are you now a full-time teacher? Like,
Yeah, I am. Yeah. So it's a crazy story there real quick is, so I started with the substitute teaching, wanted to, move further in the teaching realm. And I met an individual in the school while I was substitute teaching. They're like, wait a minute. They call me Coach B. They're like, Coach B, you got a master's in IT. Why don't you go work for the district here as an IT guy? And I got some connections through there. And one thing I learned in the military, networking is an awesome thing to do.
facts.
Networking is just phenomenal. And if you're out there doing that, it can definitely pay dividends for you. And she gave me a number to the district office. And I applied for a district job as an IT specialist. Did that for me. And I got stories for days. I was working as an IT specialist. And I was an intern first. I was a 40-year-old intern with 20 years of military service as a senior non-commissioned officer. And I'm a low man on the totem pole again. And it was a swallow your pride where I got 26, 28-year-old individuals in charge of me, where it was complete opposite when I got out of the military. I'm the head guy in charge of a couple hundred individuals, younger individuals. So it worked out well, but I did realize that they were not using and abusing me, but they're like, wait a minute, old First Sergeant Berndt here. And I was an intern and I got all these young college kids trying to get into the profession. Let's have old First Sergeant Berndt monitor these guys at all these different schools. And I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't my job. Like, if this is my job, then let me get paid to be in charge of these individuals, not do the job and be in charge of the kids that you're supposed to be in charge of. So I did that for about 6 or 7 months. And then I finally got a call from the principal at the middle school that I was substitute teaching at. And he's like, hey, rewind a little bit. I was already coaching middle school football there. He's like, hey, I got a head basketball job here. If you just want to be like the ISS guy, in school suspension. I'm like, oh, that could be laid back, chill, I can discipline some kids when they're messing up in school, and do that. So I went that route, did that for a year. And then that's where it all came full circle for me. Teacher had left the following year, took a assistant principal job somewhere else, and they had a head teaching certified position full time as a digital design teacher at the middle school. And I said, absolutely, I will do it. I will take this job. Did it for 2 years and moved away from there now. And I'm working in a different district now, sort of doing the same thing, mentoring, coaching, teaching kids in the middle school. A little bit, it's a District 1 school. We call District 1, Title 1 school here. So a little bit more of the, needs kids, a little bit rougher area in the community. And I absolutely love every day of it, going there and being able to teach, coach, and mentor kids for the future and future leaders of America. So love it.
Josh, I don't think you've said where you at right now. So, the college listeners got to know, like, they're following this journey with you, and they're sitting here thinking right now, Josh, where you sitting at?
Yeah. So right now I am in beautifully, you can't see, but boy, I'm sweating here on a daily basis, just outside of Columbia, South Carolina, and Lexington, South Carolina, a little suburb of western side of Columbia, South Carolina. I've been here. This is my second stop here, and this is where we decided to sort of retire with our kids as they're moving forward in their educational, lives and whatnot. So, yep, just outside of Columbia, South Carolina.
How many kiddos we got?
So I got 2 kids. I got a 21-year-old daughter. She is a senior at Winthrop University, just south of Charlotte, North Carolina, on the tip of the South Carolina, North Carolina northern border. I got a son who is 17. He's a junior at the high school, River Bluff High School here, where I coach football at as well. Yeah, at the high school.
Okay.
2 kids.
Are you head coaching?
No. So, man, people have asked me that so many times. Like, hey, have you ever thought about the head coaching? No, I'm like, that is a lot.
That feels like it would be a lot.
Oh man, it is a lot. So I'm coaching. I'm an assistant coach. It says an O-line coach, offensive line. So great thing about this and what I love is I had these kids who are now seniors and juniors. I had them when they were in 6th and 7th grade coaching them. So it is a true product of what they started at to where they're finishing at. And I got to be part of all of it. And I mean, just to see the changes, it's phenomenal.
Phenomenal. Yeah, you don't have them sitting in some doing push-ups and whatnots, do you?
No, I don't. But they know. Like, it's funny because what we'll do is after game days on Friday, our Friday night games, Saturday we do film and stuff like that, and then that following Monday will be our first day back. And I'm an assistant coach, another offensive line coach in the varsity, and we have our minuses and pluses, right? Plays that you didn't do what you're supposed to do. We go through all the film, do that, and they come that Monday and they're like, man, how many minuses do we got to run? And they're like, well, we know Coach Berndt's taking care of this, and it's that hour time from after practice on Mondays. It's back to the old drill sergeant days of unique ways to get you to understand what you did wrong and the right ways so you understand not to do it wrong the next time. So,
yeah. Drill Sarge, just go on and call it out as PT torture.
Yeah, absolutely. It is.
You're getting, you smoking them. You are smoking them.
Yeah. Absolutely. Gosh, those days. Oof.
Ooh.
That work.
Yes.
Brings hair up on my arms.
Oh yeah. Well, look, I think we all, if you've ever had the opportunity to serve, I think all of us have the drill sergeant night sweats. Everybody.
Oh yeah. Yes. I can remember my drill sergeants to this day, and it's now 24 years.
I will never forget them. Ever.
Yeah. No.
Ever.
Definitely. No.
Yes. No ifs, ands, or buts. Okay. Well, let me ask you this. I mean, because this is quite a journey, and I want to flush out more of your story. But we got a lot of episode to go here. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Let me ask you this though: if you weren't doing what you do right now professionally, what would you like to be doing?
I think I have truly thought about this for a while, and I even had time to do it even after or as I was about to retire. And it would be something to do with molding and shaping the next leaders, like I talked about before, in that mold of some sort. I just feel like I have so much more to offer to the younger generation that they may not be getting. And we know what the generation is like nowadays compared to when we were growing up. And it's changing, and I got that, and I understand that. And I think what really benefits me with even where I'm at right now with kids, high school, middle school kids, is I can still relate to them. right? I got kids who are at that age. I'm around them all the time, from the coaching aspect to the teaching aspect. So I can relate to them, their lingo, what they can do, what they cannot do. But biggest thing for me, and I talk about a lot in the coaching and teaching aspect, is you don't know your limits, right? Like no one truly knows their limits. They feel like they know their limits, but when they hit that limit, they feel like they got to stop doing, or the pressure is getting to me and I can't overcome that. And that's what's really I look into and really try to push these kids, right? When the going's getting tough, it's fourth quarter, 1 minute left, you are dead tired. You can push through that barrier to break another barrier open that you didn't know you really had inside you, and I love that. So I truly feel I found my calling. And my wife asks me all the time, like, why do you do this? And parents, why are you doing this? You're a retired guy. Listen, I can't retire at 40. I'm too young, if you want to say, quote unquote, to stop doing what I love to do and continue to give to others is a big thing for me. So yeah, that answers it in a nutshell. It's really not fully, but I truly have found, I think, my niche and what I want to do. And I'm very fortunate because people don't, off the get-go retiring, find what they truly want to do, right? And they might struggle to find these things. And I've had struggles 4 years since retirement of what I want to do, right? And maybe my end goal was to be a, full-time certified teacher, this and that, and coaching, but I've had some ups and downs.
Well, no, and particularly those who are you know, coming out of the military. I used to run the veterans program for UW Oshkosh, and that transition sometimes is so hard. And some do a really good job of utilizing all the resources that are provided and finding that next path forward, and some just get so overwhelmed by the lack of structure and the communication sometimes of how they're being communicated to versus how they've been getting communicated to for a long time. And that it just throws off everything.
Yeah, I've seen, the hundreds and thousands of sodas I've either been associated with, leaders of, or, that I've seen, like, we've always, and me towards the end of my career as a senior leader, trying to prepare those individuals for what's really about to hit them in the face in the outside world, what we call the outside world, the civilian world, right? Like we always had this common, joke of, dang, now I really got to go to work after the military, because we always thought like the military was not really actual work, like it was play for us sometimes, and now I got to be this I got to do a different job than what I'm used to. And I've seen so many and, that have struggled with it. And, they struggle from it from maybe they've tried all the resources that the military provides. And some are just like, I'll be good. Trust me, I don't need these things. And then, it's tenfold and it's completely the opposite when they get out and it hits them right in the face. Like, whoa, wait a minute. And I've got buddies to this day that are still, the struggle's real with them, and that whole thing of, the one thing I think that is the common ground in the military is the brotherhood and the family camaraderie that I talked to individuals that I was stationed with 2000 time frame when I was in Alaska in the middle of nowhere, like I still talk to these guys, love to keep up with them. I think that's the bond that never goes away for sure. So,
did you get stationed in one of those weird locations?
So the funny thing is you say that when I got out of the end of basic training, put us in two rooms, and it was OCONUS, which means overseas duties assignments, and CONUS, which is stateside duty assignments. And they're like, Private Berndt, you're in the OCONUS room. So I'm like, nice, this is great. I'm going to go to Italy, Germany, places of that nature. I'm thinking outside of the United States. And my name ending in a B, one of my names was the first ones to be called. And they're like, Private Berndt. And I'm like, yes, here, drill sergeant. They're like, Private Berndt, you're going to Alaska. And I'm like, hold on, drill sergeant, no disrespect, but Alaska is part of the 50 states. That's not overseas. And they're like, Berndt, in the Army or in the military, Hawaii and Alaska is considered OCONUS. The rest of the 48 states are all CONUS. I'm going, all right, here I go. I'm going to Alaska. And I thought I was going to be cool, be all right. Being from Wisconsin, I'm used to the cold weather. No, I was not prepared at all.
Bruh.
That's a different level of cold.
Unreal. Negative 30, 40 degrees below zero. And we're out there training. I'm going, what in the world did I sign up for? I mean, I was blown away, blown away.
Ooh.
Yeah. This is before, I guess you want to say like war took off, the whole 9/11 thing. So my first year or two in the Army, we were a garrison type military still. We hadn't really, I think the last was Desert Storm, really conflict wise for
Right.
majority of the military. So yeah, it was a garrison army, and man, I was out there running in 30 to below, 40 below, doing PT in the morning. I'm going, this is unreal that I'm doing this. So yeah, that was definitely a place.
You know what? I'm gonna
I
give
met my
you.
wife there though,
Hey, I'm gonna give you
which is cool.
kudos on that one because I am not about that life. That.
I thought I was prepared for it, and I was not. I'm out there for 30 days in the field, and it's 30, 40 below, and we're sleeping in these tents that obviously are not stopping the cold. You're laying in these sleeping bags that are supposed to be for that, cold temperature type. No,
No.
miserable getting up in the mornings at
No.
that temperature. Horrible.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's jump into the first segment. And the first segment is called 21 Questions. And 21 Questions isn't 21 questions, but these are such awesome questions that they might provoke 21 answers because we like to go a little
Awesome.
bit in depth. So,
Yeah, awesome.
first question is, what are you grateful for?
I am grateful for my family. The 44 years that I've been alive, my family has been there through everything I've done, whether good or bad, right? They have had my back, whether it was my mother and father, my two younger brothers growing up, my grandparents, aunts, uncles back home that are still there in Oshkosh, Amaro area, all around there in the Fox Cities. Then really my family now, my wife of, Jesus, next week going to be 23 years of marriage, and my kids, just the structure that they give me. They give me the balance that I need for sure.
What motivates you?
What motivates me? The future, right? I know it doesn't stop, right? I was always told as a young private in the military that no matter what happens, someone's going to be there to pick up your weapon when you're dead and gone or whatnot, right? When you're not there anymore. And the future, given what I got to the future so they can be successful and continue to make America better each day is, the big thing for me.
What grounds you?
My wife. My wife grounds me. My wife definitely grounds me, good and bad. She is there to level me, keep me on pace. My wife definitely, my wife Mackenzie.
What does success look like to you?
Success to me, people always say, money doesn't make you successful. I just feel like happiness makes you successful, right? If you enjoy doing what you're doing and for the better of others and for yourself and others around you, that's what success looks like for me, right? You don't have to have all the money in the world, right? I grew up, my parents were hardworking individuals. My father he worked in the school system as a janitor for 30 some odd years, I think. My mother was a factory worker at then Morgan Doors, which was right there on the river. And it's changed over time, but just hardworking, honest, so that's my success.
What irritates you?
this it could be at a moment's notice something could irritate me, but I think irritation for me is procrastination and laziness, right? Waiting to the last minute to do something and having to be told to do something sometimes, right? There's this whole thing in the NCO creed, in the absence of orders, continue to do what you need to do, right? And just because someone's there not there to tell you to do something doesn't mean you don't have to do it, right? So procrastination, laziness, having to be told what to do all the time, right? Take the initiative, do things on your own sometimes, right? I'm a middle school teacher, and I don't know how many times I walk in the cafeteria and there's a bunch of trash on the cafeteria table, and I'd be like, hey, so-and-so, pick this up. And they'd be like, that's not mine. I don't care if it's not yours. The right thing is to pick it up, throw it in the trash, and move on and do the right thing, So the trials, so yeah.
What scares you?
What scares me? The unknown, right? Go back to structure for me. I hate not knowing what's going to happen next. And I understand now where I'm at in this time and place. I can't determine that sometimes, but man, I'll tell you, I got 78 calendars around my classroom, my phone, my computer. I have so many things meticulously to know what I need to do still to this day. But the unknown for me is what scares me, not knowing.
What recharges your soul?
what recharges my soul? I think what recharges my soul is the end state of young future leaders for me, rather, whether it's from the educational standpoint, athletic standpoint, or just everyday life. Having parents come up to me and be like, Coach B, I just want to thank you for what you've instilled in my son or daughter. That's the driving passion that I get. And I love to hear that and see that. So that really is what recharges me, seeing the progress of kids. Even when I was a drill sergeant, you know what? We'd get kids every 9 weeks that were, the struggle was real, right? From all walks of life. And they don't know what their future looks like. Those first 2 weeks in basic training are probably the hardest for any individual going into basic training, because the structure, getting up, wait a minute, I got to wake up in the morning, I got to brush my teeth, I got to shave, I got to make my bed, I got to be in the right uniform, I got to be downstairs at this time, all that time management and stuff. But then seeing that after 9 weeks, 10 weeks, and then having a parent come to be like, wait a minute, is this who I thought it was, or who left 9, 10 weeks ago? So seeing that is definitely a good thing. So,
You know what I actually think the hardest thing was about basic training?
what's that?
Becoming a team with a bunch of people that are nothing like you and have nothing, no background, like nothing, like just absolutely nothing. You don't know them from anything, and y'all have to become this really well-oiled machine if you don't want to pay for it with your body.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, they put you in these situations where you got no other choice, but you gotta understand, communicate, and provide teamwork for each other, that you don't have the option for it. That is an absolute great point, because all walks of life, right? I may have never, yeah, I don't even know how to really describe it, but just seeing, like, that's like that first phase of basic training. They call it like a red, white, and blue phase, right? Like you go in 3 week increments, and that red phase is totally, we breaking you down, getting you to learn the Army military ways, and it is an all one fail, all fail. And as they continue to move forward, they start to realize, and they also start to like police themselves up, right? Like, drill sergeants are full control for the first 2 weeks in red phase. And then as we move forward, we start putting kids in leadership positions, and then they have to police themselves up. And that's what we want them to get to, right? Being leaders and listening to their fellow soldiers, and doing that. That's a great point.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, there's definitely, I'm thinking about some of the people I was in basic with, and those people, I would have never met those people anywhere in any kind of way or hung out with them in any type of way, but they became some of, I'll never forget them. And
Yeah, that's cool.
and
Yeah, definitely.
they throw a pretty molly bunch of individuals together in a barracks, and
Yeah. And you got 60 at that time, 60 males all in one barracks room, and man, it is, the struggle is real sometimes, boy, and you gotta figure it out. You
gotta
gotta
figure
figure it out,
you
especially
do.
when the drills aren't out there.
Oh yeah, you definitely got to figure it out.
Yeah,
That would be my thing.
yeah.
Okay, how do you define love?
Love for me is definitely more than looks. And I say looks in a reason, from a perspective of, even like, I'm just looking at love like with my wife and my kids and family and that nature for me. But it's not looks, right? It's the inside for me. It's the true heart determination of things. That is love, right? If you're willing to go the extra mile for something, it's got to be love, right? Because you're not going to have to be told to do something all the time if you truly don't love it. And I instill that really in my son at this point, because he's still going through athletics, that if I got to tell you to get up in the morning and do this, this, and this, whether it's for a sport or academically, you truly don't love it, right? And if you're having to be told to do something, you truly don't love it.
Facts.
For me, yeah.
What is the most memorable life lesson that you learned from a parent, a guardian, or a mentor?
Oh, this is a tough one, because boy, growing up, I'll tell you, I don't know how my parents did it with 3 boys in a house. It was only my mother, my father obviously being there as well. 3 young boys. I think it was, you're going to learn from your mistakes. And I truly, growing up, had to learn from my mistakes. I didn't have a lot of mistakes growing up, but I had some mistakes that were what at that time I thought were going to be the most detrimental things moving forward. And this big picture of things was going to be ruined because of what I did. And I never truly fully realized that just because I made a mistake doesn't mean that it is over. It's done with. I have nothing to look forward to or work forward to. It was more of learn from that mistake, move forward, and just make sure that that mistake is not made again. So my parents instilled that in me, right? They were hard on us, but let us go about our business as three young boys in a household that hopefully they instilled the right things in us growing up, that the mistakes that we would make, because you're going to make mistakes in life, that they wouldn't be detrimental to you, and they'd be small mistakes that you can learn from, and then don't make those mistakes moving forward. So just mistakes are there. You're going to get knocked down, but you're going to get back up, and you're going to continue moving forward and be successful and learn from them. So,
All right, Josh, I got one here for you, and it is
yeah.
this: what would your walkout song be? So I'm gonna put it out there. Matter of fact, this is perfect. If you were getting the award for Coach of the Year, right, and you were going out on the stage to talk to these adoring whoever's, right, past players, parent, whatever. What do you want playing when you walk out to go hit the podium?
Oh man, this is gonna sound really weird, and it's like I don't want to say like a manly, I'm a manly infantry guy of 20 years, combat veteran, all this craziness, coach, hard structured, this and that. And I thought about this for a long, long time, and it really never hit me. And I got to go into detail about this. It would literally, I know it's gonna be off the cuff. I'm a survivor by Destiny's Child. It is off the cuff. I got it. I understand. And just saying this, just the ups and downs I've had through my life, right? Growing up, continuing to move forward through my middle school, high school days, not knowing what I'm going to do military wise. I literally entered the military, enlisted in the military for 3 years, and I thought that's all I was going to do. And I did that solely because I wanted to get back on my feet after the whole Los Angeles Dodgers thing fell through. I didn't know what to do with my life. Really, I tried to work a roofing job. I'm like, oh man, I can't do this for 40, 50 years. I'll be dead, broke, whatever. My body just won't be able to take that. And so just surviving the things I've had to overcome, right? In the military, a lot of ups and downs, right? On a daily basis, being gone from your home for a year to 15, 16 months from my family on deployments, just surviving those things and coming back a better individual, a better man, a better husband, a better dad. Those things for me, huge. So yeah, it's out there, but
No, that's not out there. That's a really good. Now, did we see it coming? No, we
Bruh.
definitely
no,
didn't see it coming. But does it fit?
no,
It fits so well. Actually, that makes a lot of sense to me.
yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna break format for a quick second because I meant to ask this earlier and just ask you, why did you want to come on the Kosh?
I want to come on the Kosh just to sort of listen. This is going to sound just off the cuff, but I truly will never forget my roots, where I came from, where I am as an individual today because of where I grew up in the great old city of Oshkosh. I mean, I think I just wanted to tell my story of, you want to say small town, 67. Gosh, now who knows what the population is? Oshkosh and the Fox Cities, it's probably massive, but small town I can consider, can get out and can be successful and do something for themselves and be productive. And I miss Oshkosh, right? My wife and I talk about it all the time. We go back there quite often for family. It's harder now with the kids and coaching and teaching and stuff of that nature. And it was obviously hard when I was in the military, but yeah, I miss Oshkosh, right? That's where I was born and raised, right? That's my passion. It's in my blood. It always will be, and I love the place. I got all the family still there, so I love coming back there, and I love showing my kids where I was born and raised. So
Hey,
that hits a soft spot for me, right? Because I got a lot of family there, and I got a lot of friends still there, and I don't get to see them as much as I used to, and so I love it.
and
Definitely try to.
the Kosh is cool. Is your wife from the Kosh too?
Not even close.
Oh, okay.
Not even close. It's funny because I think I mentioned it just briefly. No, I was in Alaska station, my first duty station. And she's probably going to hate me for saying this, but I had no intentions of anything connected to the military after those 3 years. I want to do 3 years, get what I needed structure wise, get back on my feet and get back into what we call quote unquote civilian world and move forward. Ratio at that time in Alaska was 9 men to 1 woman. in the state of Alaska at that time. It's probably worse. I mean, it might be worse now. I don't know. But yeah, I met my wife in Alaska. Her father and mother were teachers at that time. Her dad was actually an ex-NFL football player back in the 60s and 70s, was coaching football, decided to move out to Alaska. Money was good out there at that time. And they started raising a family out there. And sure enough, I met my wife. She was going to the University of Alaska Fairbanks at the time, and I met her. She's going to college out in Alaska as well. Not born in Alaska, most of her family in Idaho, but her mom and dad moved out to Alaska, and that's where they sort of had their roots.
Okay.
So,
all right. That Alaska thing still blows me away. Like I'm not messing with that right there.
No, it did myself as well. It was days I'll never forget for sure.
Okay. Well, we're going to jump into the next segment. And the next segment is called Word Associations. And what I do is I'll say some words and you tell us what comes to your mind. And we have a tradition here on the Kosh that we always start off with the same word. It is the word of unity. It is the word of family. It is the word of community. That word is food.
Food for me. Food. Greasy takeout food. Barbecue for me. Barbecue definitely in the South. It is phenomenal. Smoked barbecue. Love it. And I've started to now take a learning to it and trying it. So smoked barbecue food for me is the word.
Josh, you trying to tell me you got a smoker over there, man? You be handling business?
I do. I got a pellet smoke I've had for probably a couple months now. And boy, brisket, ribs, wings. I learned, New York straight up steaks. I've learned to smoke. I mean, it's phenomenal. Love it.
Hey, when you come here to the Kosh, you're going to have to invite me wherever you're going to be smoking at.
Absolutely. I'm down. I'm down for sure.
Cocktail or beer?
Cocktail for me.
All right. What's the cocktail of choice?
I'm gonna go back to even when I heard old Coach Dan Weiss on here. I'm a whiskey and Coke type of guy. Whiskey and Coke for me. Not a Diet Coke. Coke for me, for sure. Here, Coke is more the drink of choice, not a Pepsi. Coke. But I'm a whiskey guy.
Wait, if you're in the South, Coke is everything. Because then you'd be like,
Coke is absolutely everything.
Because because anything is a Coke. You'd be like, can I get an orange Coke? Can I get
That's right.
Can I get a grape Coke? Everything is Coke. There is no nothing. Everything is a Coke.
Yeah. If you got Coke here in the South and you got Chick-fil-A, you are in the South. Chick-fil-A and Coke. Yeah.
I remember my first time because my family originates. And then, when you hear that terminology and you're just like, okay, everything's a Coke.
Yes.
Shop local.
Shop local. When I even think, and I can go back to the Oshkosh days. For me, locally shopping was, it's very simple. Like there was, and I wish I could remember the name. Back then, a CD place downtown Oshkosh. Exclusive company. Yes, that's shop for me. Shop local for me is exclusive company. I used to love going there and buying. And gosh, even then it was a vinyl or a CD for sure. Exclusive company. Yes.
It doesn't exist anymore.
Gosh, that's sad to hear. Has it been gone for a while or?
Yeah. Well, once the gentleman passed away, it kind of all wrapped up. It was around for a little while and then they kind of wrapped it up. But, oh, man, I used to love going to exclusive company.
I love it. Loved it as a kid. I thought that was such a treat from my parents to take us down there. And I'd be like, man, I get to pick out a CD or two. Like, this is awesome. Like, oh, great. So I used to love it.
Well, they don't really have, I will say there is a couple of record places around. Okay. But, you really don't have a place where you can go buy music like that anymore because everything is.
Of course. Yeah, everything's off. Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, you're right.
Concert
for me, Dave Matthews Band. I went to numerous Dave Matthews concert bands, and for me, when I think of concerts, it's Country USA and Oshkosh. It used to be Country USA. I think it might be different now.
They stopped it for a while, and they're just now bringing back these concerts.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, boy, that was heaven. High school days when they had Country USA, and we'd be out there for 4 or 5 days and just doing high school.
Were you doing the mud pits? Josh,
no,
because Country USA religiously always turned into a mud pit.
Always. Yeah, I was not a mosh pit, mud pit guy. No, definitely not. No, no.
All right. I'm gonna change a word, and let's go with this
Yeah,
word: community.
community for me. When I hear community, I think of, gosh, growing up, I was in the Boy Scouts. I played a lot of YMCA in the community, right? Football. That's where I all got started. YMCA football years and years and years ago. That's what I think of, like the community around Oshkosh. When I grew up, I played, Legion baseball, played a lot of traveling sports and stuff of that nature. But the community, yeah, for me, like YMCA was huge for me. I was always there. My parents would drop me off at the YMCA and I'd be there all day, or the Boys and Girls Club. I'd be there all the time. And at that time, I was right downtown, just really down from the exclusive company. Down there on the corner was the Boys and Girls Club way back when. And I used to go there a lot. So my roots are definitely stem from there for sure. Let me just go out and do. So,
All right, I'm gonna add a word because I'm curious. Well, I think people would want to know because
yeah,
people don't at the end of the day, right now there's not as many veterans out there as there used to be, right? And
correct.
so the
Yeah,
people don't have access all the time to truly have conversation or to ask some questions.
yeah,
And I do think people make assumptions about a lot of things. Unless you have access and get to have that conversation, you might be surprised what you get. Because the one thing is, I think what I've learned from conversation is people think a lot of times veterans are all the same, and they're so wrong. Vets are not all the same at all,
yeah.
and don't have the same point of view or look at the world the same way. So my word for you is patriotism.
Boy, that really hits deep for me. I am a tried and true, obviously, patriot, and it's in my blood as well. So the word for that is, I'm gonna say one word. I think that's just respect. I don't go out there and I don't think a lot of, or if not all, veterans as a whole go out looking for respect. And sometimes I feel a little blown away when someone says, thank you for your support, thank you for your service, things of that nature, right? Because I'm so humbled. And it's a job that I rose my right hand to do. This era, we all rose. We rose our right hands. We weren't in a draft, like back in the days and stuff. So I think just the patriotism for me is just, it's wholehearted. We did it because we wanted to do it. We didn't do it because we were told to do it. We didn't serve our country because we were told. We did it because we wanted to. And I think a lot continue to try to serve their country in other ways, even if they're out of the military. And I think that goes a long ways. But patriotism for me, man, I'm a stickler about it because it seems to be almost trying to be lost. But there's people that got to keep it alive and keep it talked about and showing still, I guess you could say. So,
Okay, last word. Diversity.
all right. Diversity. For me, it truly has helped. I'm gonna say helped me, and I say that because basic training, like we talked about, the diversity was there, right? It was people from all walks of life, and it's truly sort of made me who I am today and what I do today. Working with all individuals does not matter, does not even cross, my thought process. So diversity for me is something that I was not well rounded in growing up, to be honest, but I've been allowed to expand, and it's definitely helped me, in what I do on a daily basis for sure.
Okay. You have survived.
Good. Well, it's another one check mark for me.
That's right. Word association checked. Okay. The next segment is called the Kosh Hidden Gems. And what this is, and we're making it different for you. We're gonna expand it out because you're traveled,
Awesome.
you've been a lot of places, and you know what? A hidden gem is a hidden gem. So we need, in your case, your hidden gem can be anywhere that you wish to share about. And if you do want to try to do one back here in the Fox Cities region, that would be cool too. But at the end of the day, hidden gem usually is something that everybody knows about, or maybe they don't know these details, the secrets of the hidden gem, or maybe it's something you don't think that many people know about. So, Josh, what's your hidden gem?
Okay, so I'll do Kosh first type area for me because obviously we go back there quite often. There's always places that my family want to hit, right? They get the tried and true Oshkosh tribute, and there's two places that we almost go a lot. Well, one I know we go almost all the time, and that's Players. Players, we go. My family loves cheese curds, and for some reason, my wife will go there numerous times while we're in Oshkosh. So Players, especially for cheese curds. And Leon's. I don't is Leon's still so the frozen,
Yep.
yogurt custard.
Leon's
Like
is Leon's
that
is
is the and
legendary.
that is yeah, that is where I can show my kids that I went to. Remember the days of the roller skates coming out and giving me ice cream as a little kid, and my kids get to see that like where old dad was at 6, 7, 8 years old getting his ice cream from Leon's for sure.
All right.
Leon's.
Hey, I'm gonna give a shout out to Players too because you know what? We just went there. It's actually my daughter's fiance. When he comes to the Kosh, that's one of his favorite joints to go to. And here's what I didn't realize about Players. Like we go there occasionally. It's not on my normal rotation of
Yeah,
Kosh places to go, but the area's good and they got good wings. So,
they
but
do have good.
their mushrooms. Their fried mushrooms and whatever that horseradish sauce they got going with those fried mushrooms are off
Mm-hmm.
the charts.
Yeah. Yeah. My wife loves obviously the cheese curds, but then the fried mushrooms she loves. I wish I could know. I wish I truly could because I would bring that back to the house and try to cook it up here because it's fabulous. Love
But
that place and yeah.
that breading on it, that
Yes.
whatever that coating is such a good breading.
Yeah. And it's not the typical 3 pounds of breading little mushroom,
No,
where you usually get sometimes. So
no, I feel like it's a half mushroom.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
pretty good. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Well, thank you for your hidden gem. And at this time, we're going to take a short brittle break. And what I'm going to say about it is normally, Josh, what would be happening is the individual is sitting across from me, and we have the brittle to literally open a fresh bag of Charay's Ghana brittle, and we have the person taste it, and we get the instant reaction. But since you are not here, I am not going to get to do that, but we are going to share the Ghana brittle ad anyway.
Awesome.
Hey, Timber, this is Orson.
This is Yao.
Hashtag the Brittle Daddies. Timber, every week you have some amazing guests who have some amazing stories, and we want to give them a little something.
Yeah, let's give them the pistachio brittle. It's a state fair winner.
Oh, the pistachio. Leave this for guests who have some really exciting stories. I think they'll enjoy it.
And if your guests want to find out more about Shari's Ghana style brittle, they should go to sharaysgsb.com.
Sounds good. All right, we're out.
Deuces.
All right. That was our brittle break. And also, hey, next time you come here,
Absolutely.
I'm going to have some brittle for you.
Awesome. I look forward to it. Definitely.
Matter of fact, while we having this conversation, the other thing is, since you've been gone, do you know that the Kosh has a cidery?
I did not.
Yes.
I did not know that.
So, we got a brewery. We got we got a distillery. Well, we got two breweries, if I'm correct. And we got a distillery. But now we have a cidery.
That's interesting. I did not know that. And I talk to my family all the time, and I don't know if they're cider connoisseurs or whatnot. They're probably more the beer and whatnot. But yeah, I did not know that.
It's over on 17th Street. It's actually in a neighborhood.
Hold on. 17th Street is where I spent 3/4 of my life growing up on 17th Street.
It is literally next to where they sell the headstones.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I lived just down there by Jacob Shapiro Middle School.
Yep.
or elementary school.
So I want to
Yep.
give a shout out to our friends at Sunken Paddle. They make amazing ciders, and what they do is every Saturday they open up the place so you can go in and do tastings, and it's 100% free. They have about, usually on menu, they have about, I don't know, I want to say about 14 to 15 different ciders that you can go in there and get a pretty good, they are Wisconsin, so that taste that they give you is a decent taste, is what I'm going to say.
I bet.
It's a good little tasting, but they make these fabulous ciders, and we have partnered and have made the Kosh cider, which is a habanero and blackberry cider.
Oof.
It's
That
right.
could be an interesting.
Wait, it's
I
right.
bet it.
It's right.
Yeah.
I'll promise you. All right, you just go ahead and let me know when you hit the Kosh next time. I'm going to have one waiting for you.
I will absolutely take you up on that for sure.
Okay, so the next segment, my favorite segment of the Kosh, is called Story Time. And this is an opportunity for our guest to tell the Kosh listeners a story. That story can be about absolutely anything of their choosing. So what do you have for us?
Story time. Oof. This is something interesting for me. I think story time for me, it's a funny story, right? So growing up, small town Oshkosh at the time, athletics for me was everything, and didn't know what that would look like moving forward. I tried everything in my power for the most part to get what I really wanted at that time. Did not happen. I got it. Went to the military. So quick story here is my wife and how I met basically her father, but her family really for the first time. So it was Easter Sunday. My wife and I went to church, and we came back, and the plan was, we were in Alaska at the time, and the plan was after Easter Sunday church to go to like a lunch/dinner at her parents' house. So we arrived there, and her father was still out and about, must have been getting some groceries or stuff, things of that nature. And we'd only been dating for a little bit, so I didn't know everything about her family. I'd never met him for the first time, obviously, like I stated. So I'm downstairs in their basement in Alaska, and I'm looking through a couple of wall hangings that her father had on the wall, and one pictures of, a couple helmets, the Washington then Redskins and the then Baltimore Colts, picture of him down in like a 3-point stance. I didn't know it was him because I didn't know what he looked like yet. And I'm like, I look at my wife, Mackenzie, and I'm like, dang, your dad likes sports. This should be a great thing. I'm going to be able to relate to him, conversate. I'm like, yeah, he must have really loved football in general. And out of nowhere, she's like, my dad played professional football back in the 60s and 70s. And I was taken back by it. I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. You failed to tell me that your father was an NFL defensive lineman. Long story short, as soon as we get done talking, he comes in the door upstairs. I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna have to meet this guy for the first time. And now he's a ex-defensive lineman in the NFL. How is this gonna go? So I walk up the stairs. I go to shake his hand and introduce myself. Hey, Mr. Bosch, I'm Josh Berndt. Nice to meet you. And as he shakes my hand, I swear to this day, he shook my whole forearm. His hand was so massive and big, and I was just taken back by it. And it takes a lot to sort of take me back and put me on my heels. And I was sort of in awe, and when he was with the Redskins, he was coached by obviously the famous Vince Lombardi, literally the last 2 years before Vince Lombardi died with the Redskins. So story, just meeting my father-in-law for the first time, and that was 23 years ago. But he was a massive individual and a broad shoulders, wide chest, massive hands. And I was taken back by it and just like, I don't know how to really react to this, so pretty crazy. Yeah.
He gave you pause.
He truly did. I mean, this guy at that time he was probably, I don't want to be off. 6'5", 270. And back then that was absolutely massive in the 60s and 70s. Now that's like, she's a linebacker in the NFL for some teams.
Wait, what do you mean? That's still massive to some of us.
It is massive. It is massive.
That's a lot of man.
Yeah, a whole lot of man. And he was still in his prime. He was 20-something years ago. He was 50s, and he was still working out twice a day. Didn't know nothing but to work out. So yeah, it was just a little odd, weird story of just how I met my father-in-law, and I was sort of just taken back. And the fact that I was not told that he was a professional athlete back in the day, and he doesn't think anything of it. It was just another thing he did in his life and whatnot. He's just so humble about what he did, and just pretty interesting to experience that and whatnot. And to this day, truly have a great relationship with them as well. So,
Has he helped you with your coaching any? Has he had any input? Has he wanted to have any input?
Has he ever? And I absolutely love every bit of it. I mean, I get texts and calls from him numerous times throughout the week on our opponent. What is the scouting report on the opponent? The thing that I am so grateful with and for technology wise is all of our games are live streamed. So my family members that are either in Oshkosh, the surrounding areas, my wife's side of the family that are out west in Idaho area and all that, they can see these things online and they can watch them, live games, which is phenomenal. So the scouting reports he asked for, and then he asks and he says, hey, why don't you do this? Because he watches the film, and I'll talk to him Friday night after the game. He's like, hey, you could have done this. Why don't you do this? Recommendations. I mean, this guy's got a wealth of knowledge, 40, 50 years of football experience coaching or playing. Yeah. So there is a lot. And I think it truly helps him still stay, at 77, 78 years old, in it, and feels like it misses it every day that he can't be like watching his grandson, my son Josh, play. They come out every once in a while and watch, but loves it. Yeah, that's funny you say that because he is a avid texter on what's the scouting report. Hey, let's do this. Try to do this. All these things, and I love it. Love it. Love it. Always open to it.
Oh yeah, well that would just be cool if I had access to somebody that played at that level. I don't care how long it's been. They're going to have some tricks to the trade.
Without a doubt, he does. And some things we've gone with it instilled and done, and it's crazy. Those things that never go away, and it's always great to have that little like pot of gold just there, like we call it, like your utility belt, that you can use and maybe pass on and use at some time. Never gets old for sure.
All right. Well, I love that story. That's pretty good. And what's funny, I don't think people always get that whole the first time as the man having to meet the parent deal.
It is not fun. And even to add on to the story is the fact that as I'm meeting all of her side of the family, the ones that were really in Alaska with them at the time, I'm gonna tell a story. She might not like it. She might like it. My wife, she would randomly disappear throughout the day, like maybe on her phone or, just leaving me there. And I'm just flapping in the wind all by myself. And I'm this newly military guy. And I felt like it was the old movie Meet the Fockers, where I'm like on a lie detector test. They're just drilling me with questions. Are you a lifer in the military? What can you provide my dog? I'm going, is this for real? Like, is this really happening right now? I'm sinking. I need to get some oxygen, some air. Like it was, I was getting some questions. I was getting the third degree and I got it. 23 years later, I'm still here. We're still together, so must have been doing some things right.
Hey, they must have liked you because they at least asked you the questions.
This is true. Yeah, don't assume. Ask me some questions to get the real answers.
You're right.
Don't just assume. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that is so good. Okay. Well, it's time. Every single time, Kosh listeners know that means it is time for the topic of the week. The topic of the week is chosen by our guest 99.99% of the time. And guess what? This week is not any different. So, Josh, what do you got for us for our topic of the week?
So funny, topic of the week for me, and it just sort of has popped up. And obviously, I'm a diehard Green Bay Packers fan to this day, tried and true. So my topic of the week really is Romeo Doubs. What is up with that whole thing? I understand he's sitting this week for some things, obviously not showing up to practice, things of that nature. But that's the topic I got, right? I talk about it all the time back home with my family, about things that are going on. And that's a topic that just sort of stuck to me this week about him and wide receiving core in general. And had some talks with some family about it, but just wanted to bring that topic up.
All right, and here you're gonna have to educate me because I'm gonna tell you right now, I am not. I watch football ultra casually, and
I got you.
and if you ask my wife, what I really do is I tune in for the first quarter, I nap during the second and third, and I wake up for the end of the game. And
Awesome.
and you know what? She ain't wrong. That is what my Sundays comprise of,
Don't blame her,
and
no.
even though the only reason I'm a real Packers fan is because I'm born and raised Wisconsin, so it is what it is. But I don't follow football like that. So, what is the background on this whole Romeo thing?
So Romeo Dobbs, right? So there's always been the question of in Green Bay, who's the number one wide receiver, right? Most teams have a number one who is their priority. When we need this, we're throwing to this guy type of thing. In Green Bay, over the last now 2, maybe 3 years now, there's never been a solidified number one wide receiver. We've got a lot of talent, a lot of guys that are all could be ones in other places, but there's just no, this is our number one guy, right? Everybody thought it was going to be Christian Watson. Injuries sort of have derailed that in a way. So this year, going in, obviously Jordan Love's full second year, new contract. How are things going to look offensively? Then Jordan Love gets hurt early on in the season, first game of the season. So we're going with a backup quarterback, right? So I want to say Malik was our backup quarterback for 2 games, did a phenomenal job. He's new to the system, only came about not even 9, a couple months before the season starts. So there's 2 things here. Backup quarterback, no number one true wide receiver. Trying to spread the wealth with the backup quarterback to wide receivers that all want to be maybe called the number one wide receiver, and we don't have that. So he's basically come out this last week, didn't show up for 1 day of practice out of, I think, anger of not getting touches, catches, passing attempts to him. So he has been suspended for this game. So the whole Romeo Dobbs thing is, what's going to happen? Are we going to really determine a number one? Or are we going to let, the 4 or 5 or 6 guys all be the number one? I don't think it's going to happen. So that's really the question of, and he's distraught about it. I got it. Stats pay the bills in the NFL, and winning pays the bills in the NFL. And if he doesn't have the stats, I think he's in a year contract, right? So he wants these stats.
Yeah, but you got to you still got to show up. You can't go.
Absolutely.
You can't just skip practice because you in your feelings.
No, you can't. You're right. And I think I read an article. I don't know exactly where it was from, but some sports reporter basically had mentioned something in regards to, so looking at this situation and looking at a majority of the NFL teams, they have a true and tried, number one wide receiver. Is it better to label a number one wide receiver, or is it good to have a plethora of targets to throw at? And this is sort of where I question that. Is it good? Or we have to, this is a guy, when we need it down in distance for a catch, this is a guy we're going to. He's our number one. And get that out of the way, because all these, maybe these wide receivers at Green Bay want to be the number one, obviously. And who is it? So just a quick topic about this week and what's going on with that. And, a lot of things to it. So
do you think we should go try to snag up, was his name Devontae Adams?
Sign me up. Yes, I would love to have him. Would love to have him. And he brings the veteran leadership that we don't have as a wide receiver. I would absolutely.
Do you think we can get him? Because, he wants out. He wants out of the Raiders, right? And I think the Raiders want him out now.
Yeah, I think it goes both ways. I think they both are in maybe mutual agreement, and they've sort of put him up on the chopping block, and who's going to give the best offer for him. Would I love to have him come back? Absolutely. I don't know if it'll happen because
that contract is big.
Real big. And with Jordan Love's contract, that's where we got these young wide receivers right now that their contracts are still in there, like the rookie contracts and first term things. So, yeah, I would love it. Of course, I would. Absolutely. But I'm not the one paying the bills with the Green Bay Packers and everybody else, so it's a different thing. So,
Josh, don't lie. You own some Packer stock somewhere. I know you got one of those certificates somewhere.
No, I don't, and I wish I did. My kids have. The funny thing is, the first day my kids were born, we put them on the waiting list, for to be season, ticket holders. But I don't truly. I don't have a little percentage.
Well, I was gonna say I don't know how old you would have been the last time they offered one of those. You might not have been. Too. You might not have been in that stage of life that you were like, that's something.
Probably not. No, definitely. Yeah.
All right.
So,
Let me since we've gone down the path of, well, let me ask this to stay on your subject, and then I'm gonna spin off a little bit, and I'm gonna ask both. What do you think the Packers should do? Should they create this number one receiver situation? My second question is, how are you feeling about Aaron Rodgers?
so first one to answer your question, should we identify really a truly number one? That's a really hard question. Gosh, I mean, there's so many positives and negatives of doing it, right? I mean, you identify a number one, and all the rest are like, wait a minute, why am I not the number one? You know, and then it goes tenfold the other way. We haven't labeled one, and we're getting the situations we have now. So ultimately, if I could choose one and it would be all right, I would love to stay with not a number one. The reason why I say that, just from a defensive perspective, is this: if I'm a team going into a game and I'm game planning against the Green Bay Packers, you're putting your best cornerback on the number one wide receiver more times than not. So us having four number ones, not labeled it, but we consider as a Green Bay Packers all number ones, then it's really hard to game plan against a defense that, in any down and distance, who are we throwing this ball to? It's not just a one, it's the 4 or 5 guys. So all in all, I would love to stay if the prima donna wide receivers of the world would not have to have this title of a number one, and I got it. That's the way I would go. I would go with, there's no number one true, and there really isn't right now. So yeah, Aaron Rodgers is a whole nother story. Obviously, I grew up with, I mean, we've been fortunate for the last 30, 40 years to have Brett Favre, not, Aaron Rodgers, and now even getting Jordan Love. I am, to this day, a die-hard Aaron Rodgers fan still. I will cheer for him. Now, the things that took place, bad for business type thing, right? Up and leaving, going, doing your business, all that. And we dealt with some of it with Brett Favre, a lot of it with Brett Favre, obviously. So it's like, gosh, do we really have to go down this rabbit hole again? But I'm an Aaron Rodgers fan. I've always been, good and bad, dealt with the good and bad from him, the off-field antics to the on-field antics, but I mean, gosh, he's done so well for us, it's hard. Do I like to see sometimes him struggle in New York? Absolutely do. Yes, do. So, yeah.
Do you play fantasy football?
Yes. Do I ever? Yes. That's an addiction of mine for sure. Absolutely play fantasy football. Yeah. Fantasy football is a thing for me for sure. Yeah. Do.
All right.
Yeah.
So you're in one of these crazy leagues. Do you all have some type of thing for the person who loses the league? Some type of crazy bet?
No, we do not. But I'll tell you, my son, all his football buddies, stuff of that nature, they got one in it. It's not a crazy one, but whoever finishes dead last in their league, and they started it last year, they got to spend 24 hours in a restaurant. And, that whole stipulation of, like, say in a McDonald's or whatever, or something that's open 24 hours, like down here, it's a Waffle House type of thing. However many waffles you eat will reduce your hours that you got to stay in the restaurant, right? So if it's a 24-hour time period and I eat 4 waffles in that 24 hours, I'm only having to stay for 20 hours. So they started that last year. So that was pretty interesting, I thought, for them. But we don't, thank God, because my team is not looking too good this year. And I could be that guy moving down the road. So
I am loving this waffle thing. This waffle thing is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
24 hours. I was trying to think, if someone did that in here in the Kosh, I think the only places you've got left is you got Denny's and you might have Two Brothers.
That are open 24 hours, right?
Yeah, I think Two Brothers is open 24 hours. All right. That's a good one.
Yeah, that is a good one. Yeah, they started it last year, and I thought it was pretty funny. And they're at it again, of course, this year with the same scenario and whatnot. But yeah, pretty interesting.
So I'm gonna spin away from football real quick because I wanna just reach back into this just a little bit and just say, can you talk about because there's a lot that you do in 20 years of serving, some of the cool places, things that you got to do and see during that time of service?
Yeah, so obviously been a lot of places, some good, some bad. Duty stations as a whole, I think in total, through my military career, I was very fortunate. My family, I don't want to say just I, because obviously if I'm in the military, my family is in the military with me, and they have to go and deal with the ups and downs of being a military family and spouse and children. We were very fortunate to be able to sort of determine our route through the military of 20 years of where we wanted to live and stay every 3 to 4 years. Sometimes we spent a little bit longer depending on where we were at, what we were doing. But to be quite honest, and as much as we've sort of even mentioned about Alaska, that is a place I can probably truly say, A, I never thought I'd be in a day in my life. And B, I thought I'd never really enjoy and like, because it's very beautiful there. It's twice the size of Texas. Obviously, there's a lot to do and a lot to see that, some people just aren't fortunate enough to see. The summers are very long. Obviously, you're going 20, 21 hours of daylight. So there's a lot of stuff to do. Now, don't get me wrong. The 9 months of winter are where it really takes a toll on you. But you can't beat the hunting and fishing there, obviously, in Alaska. People have told me, and I'm not a real big hunter and fisher, and I've never really done a whole lot of it ever, even being from Wisconsin. But the hunting and fishing in Alaska, they said you are truly spoiled, and it's hard to hunt anywhere else, really, in the lower 48 if you've hunted and fished in Alaska. So being there, I think, has been a real blessing to us. Another thing, my daughter was born there. I met my wife there. So those things sort of have a lot of significance for me. Places I've been, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, no, please.
Yeah. So Alaska's one. Out in Seattle, Washington, living out there was very nice, rainy, but nice. Even living in a different place in Wisconsin was weird for me. I had the opportunity about middle way through my career that I got to choose a duty station or assignment that allowed me to go back to Wisconsin and live there for 3 years with my family, which was good. It was actually at Fort McCoy. I know that's like a reserve and National Guard post there outside of La Crosse and Sparta and Toma area. But lived there for 3 years. I loved it. We loved it. Sort of regret leaving there as early as we did, because you can't beat the summers. You can't, well, I don't want to say you can't beat the winters, because that's a crapshoot, how it goes there in Wisconsin. Did not miss shoveling. I won't ever want to do that again. Shoveling or snowblowing. Do not miss that thing at all. But just the summers are beautiful. You get the 80s, the 90s, but the humidity compared to where we're at now, it's 110% humidity going, down in old South Carolina, and it wears on you real quick. But if you're not living around a lake of water or, a pool, it's rough living sometimes in the summer here in the South. But I do regret sometimes in the military had opportunity to go to, overseas assignments like Germany or Italy. I had those opportunities, but never made sense at the time, really based on like family, what we were doing, where my kids were at. I didn't want to uproot them from family and then schools and friends and things of that nature. So that's one thing I think we all in our family sort of regret, is just not going overseas for our kids to have that experience in Germany and in places outside of Germany. You can literally just hop on a railroad system and go to 400 different countries all around Germany, and around that area. So, but yeah, it has definitely made my kids, being military children, so diverse, so type A people, where they can go into a crowd or a school or a place and not feel lesser than. They can associate, communicate, adapt, those types of things. My daughter is probably the most strong-willed individual that I've met, and at her age at 21, where she's such a type A person. She's a strong-willed woman who can do and produce on her own and survive, really, and the culture and what's going on, and do so many different things, and be able to, effectively be successful, and so that's definitely, my kids have really, now the 20 years of them being uprooted all the time were struggles, right? Leaving friends that, and they don't realize those things. And a lot of kids don't realize those things, right? Daughter going to gosh know how many schools. She was the youngest, obviously my firstborn, so she experienced a majority of it. Every 2-3 years going to a different school, meeting new people, new friends, new teachers, new, everything. So it's definitely molded them into where, we've been here now, and we're like, wait a minute, we've hit 4 years here since retirement. And we're like, wait a minute, isn't it time to move again? Like, are we moving? Are we going somewhere else? And it's trying to no, we're here for possibly the long haul. We don't know, So yeah, it's definitely molded my family into who we are today. And it's now we can say it's definitely for the better, for sure. It's definitely made them who they are today and instilled a lot of good things, for sure.
Okay. Before I want to give you the opportunity to do two things before we start winding down this episode. And one is there anything you would like to say to your friends and family and just any Kosh listeners out here that you'd like to share? That, well, let's just get that done. we'll get that done. Well, the two things that we'll make that last. The thing before that would be: is there anything else you would like to share about your topic of the week at this time?
No, not so much topic of the week. I think just going as a whole, I'm very blessed for what I've been able to do and given and to do now for others. And I'm going to continue, and my whole family does as well. I'm grateful that I reached out to you. I literally came upon this. I'm a big podcast. I'm not a big podcast guy, but I love hearing stories, right? And in this perspective, verbally. And my wife's a huge podcaster. She listens to them all the time when she's working out and stuff like that. And I literally came upon the Kosh, obviously through Dan Weiss, Coach Weiss, and I watched it and listened, or not watch it, but listened to it. And I was so intrigued. I'm like, man, this is something I can speak to, my home roots and talk to and sort of just reminisce about and talk about and things of that nature. So that is something I'm definitely, for sure. Yeah.
Well, Josh, I want to say thank you for spending this time with us, sharing your story, talking to these Kosh listeners. I'm going to assume that you're going to be making it onto the wall. I do believe you said something about getting onto the wall, the Veterans Wall at West. That's a thing, right?
Yeah. So actually, I'm already
You're already on it?
I am, yeah. And I actually got to see it for the first time. I think it was 2019. I got inducted into the Athletic Wall of Fame at Oshkosh West. So I was inducted in there, and then I got to see for the veterans thing that he has done there at Oshkosh West, the huge, massive wall of all the military branches and veterans that have served and stuff of that nature. So that was a cool thing to see, and got to go back and tour Oshkosh West again. It's been, obviously since I'd left, I'd never really been back into the high school itself, so seeing that and just being around was definitely a good thing. So, yeah.
Well, when you come this time, you're going to check out these new schools that they've built because they are amazing.
I've heard, because obviously I got a lot of friends and family from around there still, and they mentioned these schools. I'm like, wait a minute, what school is that? And then, technology nowadays allows me to go and look and see. I'm like, good Lord, yeah, you are right. Amazing.
Yes.
Amazing.
Hey, we trying to move on up over here like the Jeffersons and the Kosh.
Yes.
We don't want to be small town forever.
No.
We trying to upgrade.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. No hating that for sure. Definitely not.
All right. No. Well, at this time we're gonna start wrapping up this episode. All right, Kosh listeners, I want to take a moment and say thank you for giving us your minds and ears. Thank you for caring about another, one of our neighbors, another important person associated with the Kosh here who's willing to share his story. I appreciate y'all. I sure hope that you appreciate the time that we take to make these episodes and break down these barriers between us so we can get to actually know each other a little bit. Like, I can't stress how important it is, because what it does is it helps to make a better community, and that's all we're out here trying to do, is make a better community. You know what I need? The Kosh is trying to become the #1 podcast in all of Wisconsin, the people's podcast, but we can't do that without your help. So, a couple of things. If you would like to see some changes, if you'd like some different questions, if you'd like a different format, if you would like new segments, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at askthekosh@gmail.com. Also, if you'd like to be a guest, just like our man Josh here reached out to us, hey, let me tell you, it's an easy process. He can tell you himself. It is not hard to get here. Yep, to get here on the Kosh, and let's talk. Let's have that conversation. I am happy to have you. All right. Also, what I need you to do is for us to become as good as we want to be. We want to make sure more people learn about us. Share this podcast with your friends and family. Also, need better analytics. So that means while you're listening to this podcast right now, take a quick moment and hit the subscribe button. Also, give us a ranking, 5 stars preferably. And last but not least, if you've got a few minutes, just go ahead and fill out that review. I don't need a lot of words, just a few words, just telling people, good, bad, or indifferent, how you feel about this podcast known as The Kosh. All right. So we've got that handled now. Now on to the real business at hand, the stuff that counts. And that is shout out time. So Josh, what you got for shout outs?
So shout outs for me, I could go on for days. Shout outs, right? First, obviously my family, my wife, Mackenzie, daughter, Hallie, my son, LJ, Josh Jr., all my family in Oshkosh, Amarillo, surrounding areas. Truly miss you, love you. Can't wait to see you guys again. And one last big shout out for us right here in Lexington, South Carolina, River Bluff High School football team, varsity football, starting out the season 6-0 this year so far. Just had our first big region win, starting out the region 1-0 against the runner-up state championship team last year. Beat them in overtime, 27-24 or 24-21. We beat them in overtime to start and remain undefeated still. So look forward to that moving forward and see what the season heads for us as it continues to move. Yeah, those are shout outs for me.
All right. Okay. Well, my shout outs, we're going to keep it quick and short this week. I usually have a pretty long list, but we didn't do that this week. This week, I want to send a shout out to my daughter and her fiance because they got the official pictures made, and we published those pictures out there on Facebook. And I thank you for all the love and blessings that everybody sent. Yeah, it's a long time coming, but you know what? No matter how old your little girl gets, she's always your boo. Always
that
your
is
boo.
Absolutely.
So love to everybody who showed her and me love. I appreciate that. I want to send some condolences and some prayers. There, you know, in Oshkosh, we had a hit and run situation that happened over on Elmwood in New York, and the individual that got hit happened to be the son of a young lady that I know from, you know, back in the day. I've been in the Kosh a long time, right? And, you know, when those things happen and it hits so close to home, because, you know, at the end of the day, no matter how big the Kosh get, the Kosh ain't that big. The Kosh is small. Like, we all one person away from knowing each other. And so that's a heaviness that I have no idea and don't want to pretend like I do, but I just want to send love, blessings, and prayers to them and their family in this time, because that is no joke. And to love and blessings and prayer. And
thoughts and prayers as well, definitely.
All right, and then I want to send a shout out to my guys over there at Sunken Paddle Cidery. Thank you very much for all that you continue to do. My daughter popped in with her fiance in the week, and I got to take them for a tasting, and we just had a fabulous time spending time with them. Thank you for always treating me with all the love when I walk in the door, the fam, and whatever family, friends, and yahoos I bring with me.
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
All right.
Yes.
And then my last shout out, always the last shout out, never the least by any means, big shout out to my wife, who actually over the past week has been getting her butt kicked by whatever cold virusy thing is going on right now. Everybody and their mother is sick right now in Wisconsin in the Kosh. But I want to send a special shout out to the wife, always for letting me continue to make this podcast in the house. I love you, baby.
Awesome. Good.
All right, there. Josh, look, Josh, this whole episode has been killing me not to call you Sarge. So, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and do that. So, Sarge, why don't you, there's one last thing that I need to do here, and that is this. You've got 3 choices to wind up this episode of the Kosh, and that choice one, give some parting wisdom to the Kosh listeners out here. All right?
Yeah.
Choice 2. Tell us, what would yourself today tell your 13-year-old self? All right. And then option 3, or option C, as some would say, all of the above. You can do both.
Yeah, I'm doing both. It triggers right away. Like, I got something for both. So really, words of wisdom for me, really, it's like a phrase that I've sort of lived by is no matter I talked about it before, it's really not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up. And there's going to be bumps in the road along the way. And if you can stay afloat, right, stay above those, things will happen in the right direction for you no matter, right? No one's perfect. There's going to be bumps in the road. Continue to move forward. And really, another thing, just to sidetrack off of that, is be aware of your surroundings. And what I mean by that really is someone might not be having the same day that you might be having. And then by the words you say, not knowing your surroundings might affect that individual in a way that you don't know what might be happening, at home or at a different location, right? So be cognizant of your surroundings and treat people with dignity and respect, regardless if you know or do not know that individual, and don't go in there with a negative mindset and in an open book. 13-year-old myself, if I could tell something when I was 13 years old, oh, geez, listen to your parents, listen to your elders, respect them more, take their knowledge that they have and instill it somewhere down the road. I had a lot of guidance, but I thought my guidance or my thoughts were the way that I needed to go about things. And it didn't always end well for me. And always have an open ear, right? Even as a leader in the military, it wasn't always my way or the highway. My ears were always open to my other squad leaders that I was in charge of. If they had a better plan or a better way to do something, I would absolutely listen to that and take that into consideration. And, more voices are always a good thing, maybe taken into consideration rather than just being so narrow-minded and in your own ways and being adaptable to different things and your leadership styles and how you talk to people, right? Like, I could talk to one person one way that I might not be able to talk to the same way to the other person. I might have to talk a different way. So just be well-rounded leadership-wise, just as an individual is a big thing for me. So I know that was long-winded, but a lot of things. So.
That was not long-winded at all. All right. But that is the Kosh. Josh, what'd you think?
Loved it. I absolutely loved just being able to have a conversation with you and to talk. And I haven't, met you a day in my life, right? But I feel over the last almost 2 hours, that we know each other, we can relate to things. And it was very good, very easy, very just great time I had over the last almost 2 hours with you and the community and the Kosh.
Thank you. The Kosh.
I appreciate it.